Happy New Year everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Brave New World for 2017. My name is Azmi. I'm sorry you're a bit late this week, but last week I had a bit of a wardrobe malfunction. Anyway, this week I was really surprised because I got an email from a viewer who made a request. Now I'm surprised because I thought only my mom watched this program. Hi Ma. Anyway, I'm going to honor that request and we'll be talking today about the environment. Now, we may be familiar with some of our national environmental laws like the Environmental Quality Act, the Fisheries Act, the Forestry Act, Conservation of Wildlife Act, but I think not many people know about our international obligations. So I'll talk a bit about some of them now. Because of time, I'm only going to deal with three of the most pertinent ones to Malaysia. The first one is the Convention on Biological Diversity. Now, what is this? What's biological diversity? Bio-D, right, is the diversity or the differences between species, between ecosystems, and we need it. We need this diversity because all the species, all the ecosystems, it depends on one another for the survival of the planet and ultimately the survival of us. Also, within our natural resources like forests, there are things we haven't discovered yet, like medicines, and we can't discover it if the forest is not there. So that's why we've got to conserve it. Now, this convention or this treaty is a general framework treaty, and it lays down an obligation for all members to protect their natural environment. It's called in situ conservation, and we have to do that too. For us, that means protecting our forests primarily.
This is said to be the biggest melunak tree in Peninsular Malaysia. This giant is growing each year and its value will grow with its age.
Now the trouble with our system is that forest and land, it's in the state government hands, not the federal government. And it's one of their sources of income. So there's a tendency to overexploit them via logging or the creation of estates. Now, we can't not do these things. We need it for our money, but we've got to do it sustainably. So can the federal government force some sort of policy onto the state government? Actually, they can. Because the Constitution says that in order to implement international obligations, the federal government can do things which are even in the state government's jurisdiction. The question is, do they want to? Now, the second one I want to talk about, well, it's got to do with the haze. This is when all Malaysians are suddenly environmental crazy because when you get the haze, we feel it.
Air quality in the Klang Valley has deteriorated with poor visibility recorded since Saturday morning.
There is an international law on this. It's called the ASEAN Agreement on Transboundary Haze Pollution. And it's an awful treaty because it's really, really weak. You know, it lays a general obligation not to burn, but there's no penalties, there's no punishment. You know, so what's it for? Why is it like this? Well, it's part of the ASEAN way, isn't it? No interference. But it can still be useful because there is a component where each party must cooperate with one another with regards to information exchange. Now, with the right national legislation, we can actually prosecute Malaysian companies who are burning in Indonesia. And with the treaty, we can compel the Indonesians to help us with information gathering, evidence gathering, etc. So, you know, it's weak, but there's potential. The last one I want to talk about is the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Now, this is just soft law. It's not binding, not legally binding, but surely it's morally binding because why sign it unless you want to do something about it? The principle I want to talk about here is called FPIC, which means free, prior, informed consent, right? That means if you're going to do anything on indigenous people's lands, you've got to get their free, prior, informed consent first. Free meaning no coercion, no trickery. Prior meaning you get their consent before you make your decision, not after you make your decision. And then informed means that whatever information that you give to them has to be done in a way which they are comfortable with and which they can understand. It's no good taking these rural communities into Putrajaya where they'll be freaked out and won't understand what you're talking about in your PowerPoint presentation. And finally, you've got to get their consent. So with all the troubles that we see with indigenous peoples and their lands now, why can't we do something as simple as that?
More than 70 Orang Asli are planning a blockade to stop loggers from coming into the Parias forest in the state of Kelantan.
International law has its flaws, but if we don't even know they exist, we can't make use of them at all. If you have any comments or even any questions, please drop us a line on YouTube or Facebook.